So, welcome everybody. Bit of a last minute thing here, but I said I'd see about starting doing these on a more regular basis. The streaming Sundays for October 27th, 2013. Just wanted to touch on a couple of little things here, obviously to recap, I guess. First of all, we had the event last week that was at the TV Ontario office. Went swimmingly, went amazingly. One glitch technical stuff on just personally my side that I'll give you guys a heads up on was the camcorder that I generally do close-up shot didn't work, so we've got this camera here, essentially the web camera that was used to do the video for the event. So I do apologize for that, but we did get good audio for it. We did get good video quality of it, obviously, to a certain degree. But I did get the camcorder working afterwards, and hopefully our next event will be better and better framed, I guess you'd say, because I can actually zoom in on this one. Anyway, nonetheless, if you haven't checked that out, I will have a link down in the description. If you want to take a look at that, it's for AngularJS. Learned lots. Nick did an absolutely amazing job. If you are available, he does run a group here in Toronto called AngularJS, as well as PhoneGap. And apparently I just got a message from somebody. Great job on that. I've been out to a couple of them. Seriously take a look at what they're doing. Both groups are doing a phenomenal job at starting up and getting into the community and doing a lot of outreach. So please dive in. That being said, the Sunday streams, I've really taken a look at what I've been trying to do. I'm going to take a step back. I realized maybe afterwards, after the first several, I should say, that putting all that sponsorship stuff at the front and at the beginning didn't really create a good engagement for you guys. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to remove the streaming Sunday from the regular sponsorship group. It's never really been in the sponsorship package. I think I had mentioned it to a few that I am doing it. They were interested, but there's not been a consistent thing, and it had never been a directive for the sponsors to support. It's been an add-on. So I'm going to take that out of that, and if we get new ones in, I might mention them here and there. We might see if we can get sponsors specifically for this, for video content that we can embed, if they're providing content and whatnot. But I want to make sure that we're having good quality content. So I'm going to not do that whole 5 to 10 minute sponsor thing that I do at the events. This is going to be purely about creating content for you guys that is enlightening, challenging, insightful, interview style, all of those things. So if you have any content suggestions or you'd like to contribute, please send me an email or shoot us off a text, both here in the description or on Twitter or all the other, you guys know the drill. So with that aside, today, as this last minute thing, I'd received a few comments recently about the tag that I discussed at last month's HTML event, which was the back to basics. So we had the JavaScript and the semantic web tags. There's been a lot of questions what the original tag that I've got this massive passion for lack of a better term that I can say on this video without it getting flagged. So the tag that I've got this passion for is actually called the details tag. It pairs up with another one called the summary tag. And I'll quickly show you here. This is the W3C's actual page for this. It's just the w3.org/wiki, but it's the details tag. So if you do a search, you look for the HTML elements details page. And what this is it shows you a quick little breakdown of what the tag is and how it gets written. So I'm going to scroll down just a little bit further here and show you essentially, if you're on a Mac, you're probably going to recognize that there's little tiny drop-down arrows in details tags. Now, it's like a little model box or it's like a collapsible box. You often find these in jQuery plugins. So a jQuery plugin would have it so that you can click on a tab and it would drop down to a larger area. Well, the W3C and a plethora of other people that support the web community completely believe that this is a great idea. So they've built this details tag where a detail with a contained summary has the ability to do the same thing. So if I continue scrolling down here, you're going to see there is examples of having things open by default by just saying open equals open. And then the summary can contain different variations of text for the content below it. Now, I'm going to show you a couple of examples, or at least one example, I should say, of how I've used it in the past. But I do recommend trying out different things for yourself. It does take into account for semantics, and what's very interesting is that because it's just a standard tag here, if you're tagging things with label, or in the example that I'm using, a H2 tag, the semantic tagging for other browsers that can't support it, as an example, our favorite one, IE 9 and below, don't end up showing the details, but they show the content within it without the collapsible feature, right? So let's pull up an example here. The jQuery Toronto event that happened this year, we were sitting down, we were doing obviously the event over the course of the day, actually days I should say. Let me zoom this in for you guys. So, but there was no real good mobile based schedule for this. So I took it upon myself. I'm like, well, I've got a few extra minutes while I sit down in a couple of presentations. Let's see about building a pure HTML based nice collapsible menu, just because I had learned about this a couple of months before, and I hadn't really gotten a good use for it. I didn't know where I could use it properly, and I figured this would be a great case study for it. So I went in and I ended up coding, as you can see, let's just view source here, view page source. Very plain, very basic. There was no PHP. It is a pure HTML file that I copied and pasted the content of the area. So all of the stuff that you see in the paragraph tags is all copy that I've copied and pasted. But what I ended up doing is I created this calendar that contains 2 columns, and you'll notice that yes, I ended up using a table. Tables are great. Anybody who says otherwise, or anybody who believes otherwise, needs to really understand that tables are an amazing way to structure your content. So yes, this is a tabular based structure, right? And then we have content within these tabs. So went through, created table based content, and inside of these I created this details tag with a summary and then paragraph. Now, what's interesting is I'm also using other things in here as well, such as the aside, right? Because aside is, as I'm sure everybody who's in the group knows, an aside is content that's related to the containing elements content, but not required. So let's take a look at this a little bit more in detail here. If I right click on this and I say inspect element, it's going to go up to the summary tag, right? But let's go up to the full one here and say, here's the details, or the TD, which is my table data for that element. In there, I have a single element, which is the details tag, and then I have a summary. That summary, you'll notice, is the full tag, right? It's containing everything here. It's highlighting everything as much as the details is and as much as the TD is. So, but if I expand this out, or if I actually, before I do that, if I hover over top, or if I click on the P tag, you'll notice that nothing's showing up on either the P or the aside. Well, that's because it's all hidden dynamically. This is within HTML. There is no JavaScript in this. So if I open up the summary tag, you'll notice that there's an H2, a break, and then a West Boss for this one. This one here has this West Boss as content within the summary directly, and then you have an H2 level tag here, which is a header level. Again, I'm not doing this for size-wise. I'm doing this because I want to have all of these headings. You have jQuery Toronto, which is the top of the page, which is going to be the primary header. And then for semantic wise, all of the talks that were happening all had level 2 based headers, right? Making semantic sense if you want to navigate the site via accessibility. So again, that accessibility purpose here, if I say click on that, or spacebar, right, like you would for tab navigating through, and yes, it does that as well. Tab navigating, push spacebar, and then look, it skips over top of those other tags that were in that because they're hidden. So without having to do any fancy accessibility tricks, it's also accessible. So, but if we open this up, we take a look, and again, the summary is still at the top, which is good. We have the P tag, which is all of the paragraph content for this. And then we have an aside down here where I went through and I created a bunch of links to external content, right? So we have just the Twitter's Bootstrap, at the time 2 point something, icon-based system. And then we have the Twitter we have Twitter, we have the blog forum, GitHub, and a plethora of different things. So if we open these all up, you can see that some of them have more than others, some of them have nothing, and I tried to go through for the presentation as well. So this is where I was able to take advantage of the details tag, right? Seeing what I could do with it, seeing how it worked, and quite frankly, also seeing how other platforms use this. It was interesting because at the time, there was no support for iOS. Since then, iOS has started to support it. So at the time, people were there with iPhones, which now support it. Latest versions of the OS, older versions not. I had the Samsung, which was a completely different screen size. Ow, that was loud. Note to self, turn off your cell phones before starting this. Okay, good. At least next time. So the Samsung has a giant screen on it, which was completely different than a lot of the other ones. So that was something to take into account. It was what I designed for, probably a mistake, especially when I did the sizing for the table. It did work very, very well on BlackBerry. The playbook looked gorgeous on. Android tablets, obviously, really, really good. And then also iPads, because iOS at the time didn't work with this, what it would end up doing, it would just show the header, it would show the name of the person, and then show the content directly under that. So there was no need to have the details clicked and the summary clicked to show everything. It would just show everything up anyway. So there's more scrolling, but completely functional. As for Windows phones, I believe at the time they didn't support it. If somebody does know offhand, please ping us down below. I have not been able to test one. I do believe Internet Explorer does support it, and we can actually just test that right now. Internet Explorer 10. It does not. So that's something to look out for. Internet Explorer does not support it. However, Firefox, Opera, and Chrome do, as well as the new Safari. So if you wanted to take a look at that, actually, we can easily do that by switching over to this scene. This is what it looks like when there is no support for it. So as you can see, sure, yeah, you do have more of a scrolling of the page, but the site is completely functional. And if I do inspect element, or if I do the F12 to do the details, which obviously show up on that page, you can see it's still recognizing all the content there. So that's the nav bar, section, table, and I'm going to see about making this a heck of a lot easier by live coding, yay. Okay, so select this, dive down into here. It does show the details, it does show the summary, but that's not how anything's getting selected. It's not doing the functionality that the W3C ends up saying that it should within their specification. So IE10 doesn't support the tag functionality, but it does support rendering it. Keep that in mind as you're developing this, but I'd like to see some stuff from you guys. How do you guys see the details and summary tag working? Are you going to be using this for calendars, for extra added content? Heck, I'd love to see this on blogs anywhere where you have a breakdown for definition lists or, well, the definition list tags technically for that one. But there's a plethora of different things that you can do with this. Oh, actually, I do have another example for you. And although it's kind of a self-plug, it's because I don't know very many other people that are doing this with it. So there's a site called parliamentdata.ca that has an API for the government's data on there. Let me just pull the screen up of the Canadian Parliament site. So on the left-hand side in the navigation, there is the navigation for each of the different sections. So these are just anchor tags that can jump down back and forth, up and down to that. Now, instead of having all of these open, these rest within a nice little navigation sidebar here. Now, technically, this probably should scroll with the page and whatnot, but you can blame the person who ever coded this site because they didn't spend enough time thinking about the user experience. Nonetheless, that's how I've personally used it in the past. I love it because it opens up the doors to having things like nested content and hidden content without having to resort to things like jQuery plugins or other JavaScript-based solutions. And it's very, very lightweight because it's built directly into the browser. So smooth, no jank, nothing. The only downside, really, there is no animation. So if you're looking for animation, you're not going to get it here. But for quick little things and for functionality, that's its purpose. Anyway, that's it for tonight. If you do have any other content, or if you want to suggest a feature for next week, please ping me, put a comment down below. I'd love to see what you guys think of a great tag, great functionality, or purpose to use. And from there, we will see about creating more of this content. Also, I'm going to see about getting a couple interviewees coming up in the next couple of months, so stay tuned. And the other thing I wanted to mention tonight was congratulations to the winner of the Spotlight event. Again, we sent that out. I'm going to see about getting you guys more prizes to give away for interaction level. But again, if you guys want anything, if you guys are looking for events, please go take a look. In fact, not a sponsor, but if you guys are doing back-end platforms, the PHP conference is coming up real soon. I'm likely going to be doing a contest for tickets for that next week. Anyway, cheers.